Good morning, guys. August 5th, 7:10 a.m. Getting started a few minutes late this morning. So it was a long night last night, but so worth it. I'll give you an update in just a second. But got in bed about 1:30 this morning and up and at 'em, ready to go. Got a lot to do today. Going to interview about 4 different people on a variety of subjects and looking forward to that. But yeah, sometimes this campaign is a little demanding, but again, love it. Made it out to Vinita last night, out to Craig County, and had just a great time. Um, Warm reception, good crowd, and Miss Charity Lynch, missed chairman of the GOP. She was out speaking somewhere else, in demand as well. So she is out around the state, and so appreciate that she's out doing what she was elected to do. But it was hated to miss her yesterday. So Charity, hated to miss you at Craig County, but man, solid base there, and had a chance to lay out the vision for Oklahoma, and feel like got more support out in northeastern Oklahoma. But I tell you what, if I was anywhere near Vinita tonight, I would be at Emmanuel Church. We went there. So revival, and awakening is happening in Vinita, and that is the most exciting thing that's happening in the nation. Is when you see a move of God, a genuine move of God, and people responding to it. And you should be looking for it, and you should make it a priority. Like I said, if I was anywhere near Vinita, that's where I would be tonight, because where God is moving, that's where you want to be. And don't write it off as just another service. This was planned to be, I think, just a few day revival, and it turned into 10 days. And had a chance to speak with the minister last night, because after the GOP meeting, after we dismissed, somewhere around 9:30, because I was long-winded. If I come to speak, just know I'm gonna bring everything. I'm not gonna travel around the state to give you 5 minutes. I'm gonna go and give you everything I have. And thankfully, most of the time, I am fueled by the people. So that's always a beautiful thing. Of course, I'm not going to hang around if people don't want it. But when people are pulling on me, then I'm going to give what they're asking for. And so I lay out the vision, and, I spoke for about an hour, maybe over an hour last night, then question and answers, and it was a great time. And then afterward we stayed, because right next door, it was hosted at the Emmanuel Church at one of their rooms, and then next door in the sanctuary they were having their revival. I pull up and it's like a packed parking lot, and I'm thinking, wow, everybody came out to see me. No, it wasn't for me. It was for the revival, which is even better. So after the GOP meeting, I went next door, because again, where God is moving, that's where I want to be. And we were there for, I don't know, maybe another hour, and it went late into the night, and it's been going on for 10 days now. And the minister, had a chance to speak with him last night, and he and his wife, they said they had planned to be in Africa. Actually, yesterday he was supposed to be landing in Africa, doing ministry out there, but they started to feel like they were supposed to stay in Vinita and continue this revival. But they were conflicted, because they'd already had a trip to Africa planned, and had obligations to other meetings and churches out there. Well, he said, not 10 minutes after I started praying about that, the pastor from Africa called him and said, "You need to stay where you're at. That God just told me that you need to stay in Vinita." So God spoke to the pastor in Africa, telling him to stay put, because that's where he was needed. And he did, and it's been going on. And praise God, there's a move of God out there in northeastern Oklahoma. I would go jump on it. The Emmanuel Church. That's what we are believing for first. My wife and I, we are going all over the state, and our primary message is a call back to God. When you have a return back to God and you have accountability to Him, you have self-governance. And where there is self-governance, you can have greater freedom. But you don't want greater freedom where there is no self-governance, because it's chaos. And we're close to that now. When you think of chaos, don't think just rioting and burning in the streets. Think rampant obesity. Think massive debt. Think undisciplined children. Breakdown of the nuclear family. I mean, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Don't think that because there's not riots and burning cars in the street that there's not chaos. Chaos is often more subtle than that. It's the slow cancer. It's the slow cancer that gets people. Don't even recognize it's there until it's systemic. Well, it is systemic, and we have cancer in Oklahoma. And it can be cured. That's the beautiful thing, is we're not beyond repair, beyond recovery, but we have to recognize it's there. And it is at the nuclear, at the fundamental foundational level with the nuclear family. That's, I believe, where we need to see great restoration and return back to the nuclear family. I had a great conversation with the people there last night about just that. And there is a call back to God, I'm telling you. And when people come back to God, then their families get ordered, their health gets improved, their finances get stable. That's what it happens. And when that happens, there is an opportunity for greater freedom. When you have a big God, you can have a small government. But oftentimes, government becomes people's God, and people rely on the system and depend on governmental provision. I spoke yesterday about school vouchers, and I'm just surprised personally. Again, not blasting everyone that believes in vouchers. I know there's some good conservatives that believe this is the right way, but I can't help but see personally how this is greater dependence on government, and depending on government to give you a handout to choose which school you want to go to or you want to send your children to. There are strings attached, and I think it just creates greater dependency on government. So when people criticize me saying that I am in bed with the teachers unions or that I am siding with the left, it's just insanity. No, the left may be opposed to unions, and I may be opposed to vouchers. It was a long night last night. We may both be opposed to vouchers, but for very different reasons. Okay. I voted against some legislation when I was in office that could have been labeled pro-life legislation, but I believed it was not protecting life, that it was actually allowing, under the guise of conservative legislation, it was allowing babies to be murdered, life to be ended in the womb. And so because I recognize that, I would vote against it while the majority of Republicans voted for it. And the only reason they voted for it was because of appearances, of optics, of how it would look if they voted against what would be called a pro-life legislation. So I voted against it because I don't care about optics, because I care about righteousness. And who else voted against it? Democrats. And so it'd be easy to correlate that and say, well, Jake voted against it, he's siding with the Democrats. Absolutely not. I'm voting against it because I want stronger pro-life measures. I want stronger measures to protect life in the womb. So I voted against it. So don't be foolish and don't be evil in saying that I am siding with the Democrats. That's an easy slap and slander. Don't go there. Same thing with vouchers. I'm not siding with the teachers' unions. I'm not siding with the left in this. I'm saying I don't want to grow government. I don't want to create more dependency on government. I want to go back to the root of the issue, which is unjust taxation. Let people keep their money instead of stealing it from them. And then they can do with that money what they want, put their kids in whatever school they desire. That, I believe, is true school choice from a conservative perspective. Not just assuming that we have to live with the taxes that we have and then beg the government to give some of it back with strings attached. Not a fan of that. Now, of course, what we have in place is the tax credit situation. I believe very different from vouchers. And people are asking, would you repeal that? No, I wouldn't. My focus is going to be on addressing the root issue. Coming into office, because for one thing, this would have to go through legislation. I don't think I would ever see a bill on my desk that would repeal that. So I don't think that's a valid argument or something to be concerned about. My main concern and focus is removing the tax burden. And I believe that is going through the front door, addressing the problem head on at the root issue, rather than circling around back and trying. Because I say circling around back because people are saying that we must do something about our failing school system. So we must exercise free market principles to give people choice to leave public schools with their money. Okay, first of all, government schools are not a free market, and applying free market principles to an environment that is not a free market doesn't always work. And I don't think that we're seeing success thus far with this strategy. It's not going to. The idea is that whenever students start leaving public schools to go to private schools and they're able to take the money with them, that'll put pressure on public schools to keep those students and that money, and they'll make necessary improvements. Not so. Just because of the nature of government jobs, and I love teachers, but when you boil it down, it's a government job. And we are desperate for teachers. And we're going to see school districts that will hold on to any teacher who will stay. And I don't think that this is going to be an incentive to improve by having students leave. So I think that is trying to address this issue through the back door. It's not addressing it head on. That's not how we improve our public schools. Now, I'm all about school choice, and I hate to be redundant. I talked about this yesterday, and I hate to say it again, but maybe I need to. Public schools, obviously we need improvement there, but I think we need a massive investment in the classroom. The money that is being appropriated to our schools is being spent on administration, massive administrative bloat. And that money needs to be directed to the classroom. And we need to empower teachers to have control over their classroom. We need to remove unruly students who cannot or will not learn, remove them from the classroom. I believe standardized testing contributes to failing public schools, because when you start teaching to the test, and then offering incentives to teachers whose students can do well on tests, does not in the end produce critical thinkers and great achievers from our classrooms. But when you invest in their ability to learn, to debate, to solve math problems, to understand science, fundamental things, truly invest in their learning, not with just cookie cutter programs and standardized testing and teaching to the test, and then what you have with that model is what you got. And that is a class that graduates without being able to read. It's horrific. We need to make sure that the money that's being appropriated to education, gets to the classroom, gets to the teachers, and that the teachers have authority in their own classroom without administrative pushback. I believe that's a great first step. I believe in school choice. Believe in school choice. There's many threads out there right now saying that Jake does not believe in school choice, and it's just a lie. I don't like vouchers because I don't like government involved in private schools. So I'm opposed to vouchers, but for a very different reason than the left, and I'm not in bed with the teachers' unions. So just to correct that. Yeah, I'll leave that there this morning. I want to remind you, God is moving in Vinita, Emmanuel Church. There's this revival going on. We jumped in on it at the end of the GOP meeting last night. It was still going on late into the night. So after we left the GOP meeting about 9:30, we went next door and jumped in on that revival. And I'm just saying that, hey, I would go wherever I saw God moving. That's the most important thing happening in your life in this day. And so praise God, I'm excited about it. I was fired up. And we got in bed about 1:30 last night, getting up, going at it again hard today. So appreciate all the prayers, appreciate the support. I posted the links in the description where you can click on the donate link and give, and that'll help us help the campaign. That money doesn't go to us, it goes to the campaign. And we are forging ahead. We are committed, even when we go out, we don't even put our food on the tab on the campaign account, because we want every dime of this to go directly towards signs and gas. We use it for gas to get down the road. But we want to make sure that the money contributed is going towards this campaign, because it's going to take every bit of it. So if you're able to give, that would be greatly appreciated. And you don't have to drop it all in one place. I mean, just small donations over time is going to be a big help. So that donate link is in the description there. You can click on that, give $5, $10. And if you're able to do that monthly, that would be great. So I appreciate your help there. That's what we're doing with it. We're going across the state, firing people up, talking about protecting freedom, because that is what the Declaration says, right? I'm going to pull this up and remind you, I'm not going to attempt it by memory, because I haven't had much sleep and I would probably butcher it. But the Declaration, I have a cool app on my phone where I got all of the foundational documents on there. Let me just read this to you. I think it's great to read it and remind us all periodically, right? So it says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident: that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And here's the point I want to emphasize: that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. This is the reason for government, to secure the rights given by God, unalienable, not able to separate those from your person, that you as a person exist, therefore you come with certain rights that your creator put into the package. And to secure these rights, it says governments are instituted among men. That is the reason for government, is to protect the rights given by God. And we must never forget that. Government does not give rights. And we should not be begging and asking for things that should be automatic. We have essential rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which the founding fathers interpreted that, clarified that as the right to property, to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That is the pursuit of happiness. That we live in this free nation with opportunity in front of us, opportunity to open businesses and see a problem and create a solution and go bring that to the free market in exchange for whatever you want. I mean, maybe you barter, maybe they pay you for it, but you get to do this freely without government dictating. At least they're not supposed to be dictating all the details of your life and your transactions and your business. But we're seeing government so embedded in all of these systems that you're required to walk this fine line every time you turn around. So I am pushing to pull back government, get it out of our businesses, out of our lives, to simply protect the rights God gave us. This is the primary function of government. And he goes on to say, like I said, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, what ends? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When government becomes destructive of those God-given rights, instead of protecting it, it starts working against it. It is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government. Laying again, now here's 2 points, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Principles and form. We must never forget the principles that our laws are based on. And these principles can be traced back to the 10 Commandments, the law of God, the way God designed it. That's what our founding fathers used as a primary model. The principles of truth and righteousness, objective truth, and organizing its powers in such form. So how we organize those things in certain agencies and departments. So these powers are in certain departments and branches. These are the forms of government. And we're going to organize these so that it affects our safety and happiness. And this is the ongoing struggle, is we're going to agree with the founding fathers that we have certain unalienable rights given by God, and we're going to demand the government prioritize those and protect those. And if they do not, we the people will alter or abolish the government. This is the beautiful thing of who we are and what we have here in America and in Oklahoma. So the decision then is yours. The decision is mine. What I'm doing is I'm running for this position of governor of Oklahoma for this primary purpose, to alter or to abolish the government that has become oppressive to the people. It's right there. It's fundamental. I'm coming in because I'm not trying to abolish, but I want to alter. And I tend to alter the form of government that we have. Keeping, of course, the basic form, not trying to do that. I believe the form that the founding fathers designed with the three branches of government is a healthy, it works. It's a form of government that actually works. It's supposed to keep government in check and prioritize the will of the people in this representative constitutional republic. But our form has been challenged with the structure of the Senate and the House. That needs to be changed. And, I just don't think you can get away. If you love freedom, you can't get away from the conversation around tax reform and rolling back regulations to get the government out of our life, allowing businesses to operate more freely in the free market. These are priorities for me. And I come back. The reason for these is I go back to the founding documents and I say, this is the way it was supposed to be. And then I compare it to how we are now and say, we've drifted too far. So I was talking to a guy last night who was talking about an interview he recently heard from a North Korean lady, and how so many people born and raised in North Korea have zero concept of freedom. It's like they've been born in a cage. They do not understand that they can't even fathom getting up and deciding what they're going to do today, or the idea that they would start a business. This idea of freedom was so foreign to them. And I believe that in some ways in America, we have now a few generations deep where we've been born into a certain system. And really, I believe that I talked the other day about this difference between freedom and liberty. And while we have this illusion of freedom where we are walking about, going about, doing our thing every day, still there are strong restrictions on you can only go so far. Now, that is the constant tension in a free nation or free state, the constant tension of what are the boundaries. Nobody can just go out and do whatever they want. There are property lines. There are lines on the road and stop signs and stoplights, and there are certain restrictions. You can't just drive however you want. You must abide by the laws of the road. So that's what I think what we all want. We want certain guidelines and restrictions on freedom. We don't want people just able to come and take whatever they want of ours. There's lines, there's boundaries. And that's the constant tension, is where are those boundaries? I appreciate good roads. Therefore, I don't mind some taxes that are going to go toward improving roads and infrastructure. So I'm not anti-tax. I'm not an anarchist. But it's this debate about where is the line? Where is the line? I'm going to be talking with Senator Devers. I had to reschedule the interview yesterday, but we've got that rescheduled. And talking about banning pornography and other moral efforts. Where's the line? Should we just ban it altogether? We saw with liquor and alcohol. Now with prohibition, it was banned, and then they came back and reversed that. But right here in Oklahoma, we're talking about recreational marijuana. Where is the line? So this constant conversation about the tension, the boundaries, the lines. And when it comes to taxation, how much is good? And then when does it go too far? When it comes to regulation, we had the conversation just as last year about the estheticians and the effort to, and I can't remember the outcome in this. Somebody will have to remind me. But to remove the licensing requirements for beauticians and estheticians. So, I mean, is that a good thing to remove that burdensome regulation, the requirement for certifications and recertifications? Or should you say, you know what? They're cutting hair. They're doing some basic services. Why should the government be involved in that? That's where I'd lean to. And I know there's concerns about sanitary conditions and preventing disease and things like that. Well, at some point, here's the fundamental principle I live by is that freedom is messy. That when you have a free society, you're going to have people making decisions that you don't agree with and living life in very different ways. So where you don't have restrictive and oppressive HOAs in your community, you're going to have some people who let their lawns go and have some trash in the front yard. So in a community, oftentimes they agree. We want clean cut yards. We want things to look a certain way. So we're going to have a small little government called the HOA to make sure everyone keeps their property kept. Now, personally, that's one of the reasons I moved out to the country is because I don't want an HOA. I don't want to live under those terms. What I do have to live under now, though, are neighbors that are not regulated. And there's certain neighbors that have to drive by like this. Like they keep their house and their property the way they choose. And I have to live with it because I don't live in an HOA. So that's the tension. Freedom can be messy, but I'd rather have a little messy freedom than clean-cut communism. And I know it's not all communism, but I'm not trying to have perfectly manicured lawns and everything just so regulated that nobody can move. And you forget what it means to be free. This is what I'm pushing for, though. I'd rather have a little mess. That's what Franklin said, Benjamin Franklin, I believe what he meant when he said, he who would give up essential liberty for a temporary safety is deserving of neither liberty nor safety. And during COVID, of course, we saw the ongoing mantra that everyone, wherever you went, people said, be safe. And it was all about be safe and take all the precautions. And it was all about, we can't get sick. We can't get a germ. We can't be exposed. But then there were those that said, you know what? If I get sick, I get sick. I'd rather do that. I'd rather get sick than live with a mask on all the time. Now I'm going to trust God with my health. I'm going to take care of myself. And, personally, that's the choice I made. And then I got COVID 3 times and I got over it. And so I'd rather live safe and get sick than have the government come in and protect every area of my life, tell me when I can and can't move and how I should dress and what I should wear and if I should get vaccinated or not. No, I'll live without that. I'll live with the risk of getting sick. I won't give up essential liberty for temporary safety. I'll take the risk. Thank you, but I don't need you, government. These are the kind of conversations we have to have and move more in that direction of true freedom and an understanding of what government is and the role of government to secure these rights. And when it does not, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. Praise God. I think that's good stuff. Mark, good to see you this morning. I don't remember what I was talking about when you made that comment about showing ID. You may have to enlighten me again. So just a reminder, went up to Vinita last night. Great meeting up at Craig County. And then next door at the same location at the church, at Emmanuel Church, they're having revival over there. So if you're in the area, I would go out there. I'm tempted to drive back tonight. So where God is moving. Oh, yeah. Okay, Mark, I appreciate the connection there to pornography. I do, just last year, they passed the age verification so that on pornographic sites, that you have to provide age verification before you can access sites. And I think that is a good thing. So, yeah, I mean, obviously pornography is corrosive and perverse and not healthy in any way. And so should it be allowed? Should we ban it completely, or should we say, hey, if you're an adult, you can drink, you can smoke, you can watch pornography, you can gamble, you can do all these things if you want? That's the direction I lean, to ensure a free nation. And then Mark, what's required of us is that we go out and do the work of God to point people to truth. And I would rather see a free nation where people are willfully doing what is right rather than it be by compulsion and mandating. I would rather see a free nation where pornography is readily available, but nobody wants to do it. Like there's no demand for it. So they go out of business because there's just a heart for God. I mean, that's the ideal society. That's the ideal, is when all of these options are available. You have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but nobody's eating from it. Like, why would I eat from that? I got all of this garden. And that's what I am pushing for is, hey, maximum freedom. But in that context of maximum freedom, the people, specifically the church, better be active. That's why I'm celebrating what's happening in Vinita with this revival happening out there. Because when I see that, not only do I see a move of God where lives are changed, but I also see potential for maximum freedom. Because where people become accountable to God, government can back out and not require by law that people behave a certain way. They're going to, because they're accountable to God. So that's the world I want to live in. And I think that that's the world everyone wants to live in. And I believe that's the world that God created. Even in the garden, in the very beginning, there was choice. There was an option. God didn't remove the option to sin. It was right there. But then he wanted their heart. He wanted them to choose what was right. And so I looked at that as the model, saying, hey, I want freedom of choice. Unfortunately, with that comes the freedom for bad choices. But when we are pointing people to Christ, we're pointing people to salvation, and their hearts are transformed, that's what holds them fast. That's what keeps them in line. Praise God. Well, hey, I'm looking at the time, and I have an interview coming up. Let me see who I have. I got Brian Logan, Senator Logan. I got an interview with him scheduled, so that's coming up. So I'm going to get ready for that. And then I have Kennedy Garza and former Representative Jason Murphy. And then I have a couple of others I need to confirm, but it's going to be a full day of interviews. So if you would like to do an interview, if there's some things you would like to talk about, I'd love to talk to you. So you can email me, jakeforthestate@gmail.com, jakeforthestate, that's FOR, jakeforthestate@gmail.com. And maybe we'll set up an interview for the podcast. You can also check out the Jake for the State podcast and all the other links in the description. So there's also the link to give. Those donations are really appreciated. And go check out jakemerrickforgovernor.com. That site is a work in progress, but we got all the essentials up there. Check out the YouTube videos, YouTube channel. And on all those, if you just like it and subscribe, then whenever I post something new, then you get an alert. So you'll always stay up to date. But hey, guys, I'm going to hop off. God bless you guys. Good to see you and chat with you this morning. I hope you're encouraged and pursue God, make him first in your life. That's going to change your life, and it's going to change the state. So looking forward to the conversation tomorrow, Mark. You asked, am I still on? I am still on. 9:30 tomorrow morning. I will see you then. All right, guys. God bless you. We'll see you.